Hi everyone, welcome to my couch. This is an Educator talk show. If you can dream it, you can do it. So today's episode is going to be super excited because we have very special two guests here with us. He is one of the most anticipated professional in the corporate sector with over 35 years of experience in the local and foreign international market. He is the Vice President and Corporate Regional Regulatory Affairs with Nestlé, and he is also the Chairman of APIIT. What is APIIT? Asia Pacific Institute of Information Technology. And it's a very well recognized, reputed organization responsible for providing some of the finest higher education in Sri Lanka. And welcoming Mr. Bandula Egodage, and accompanying him, the Head of Academic Development and Quality Enhancement at Asia Pacific Institute of Information, APIIT, Mr. Gamindu Hemachandra. Welcome both of you, sir. And thank you very much for being with us today amid your busy schedules. And we have 3 segments of today's show. The first segment is all about personal background. Right, first, personal background. Mr. Egodage, can you tell us about your childhood? What are the sweetest, cherished memories?
Okay, first of all, just to have the right background, I'm the comfortable food and call me Bandula, call him Gamindu, so I'm here. So it's very good. No, thank you for asking that question. I'm not a gifted person, especially in the childhood. I had all the difficulties faced in my childhood, not bigger things I'm talking about, even the education, even maybe food, maybe clothes. All these things was challenging times that I faced. But I'm sure that even including my parental blessing also, I lost my father when I was 7. That's sort of a childhood that I had. But it doesn't mean that it was a bad start or anything. I consider it as a privilege over others, because having that hardship for me, I take it as a privilege. I take it as a strength. So since you are asking me, so I'm privileged in that sense, even though it's unfortunate days. So that is why I'm here today. Whatever the way that I can, I consider that as in a different aspect. So that's my childhood in a nutshell. You can ask any deep questions, I'm willing to answer, but I'm saying my childhood is not the gifted way. But even though I can express whatever the thing that you desire. Yeah, everything is there, but didn't stop my way. Any of the obstacles came in cross. So, yeah.
And Gamindu, I'm calling not Mr. Gamindu.
Gamindu is fine.
So, what was your ambition as a child? So, when we're talking about your childhood?
Well, my childhood, I think, would be on the other end of the scale. I think I've had a privileged childhood. I mean, my parents always took care of me. I mean, I'm a child who got dropped off at school sometimes. It was only later on in life that I, traveled in buses to school and so on. So I think I was privileged and, supported by a loving family. And school experience was fantastic. I had a fantastic school, a fantastic bunch of friends who always supported me. And childhood was, to me, everything that it was supposed to be. So on the other end of the scale, I think, and but I'm very glad that I attended a school where I got to meet a cross-section of society and where everybody was equal. So you would have the society's upper pillars to the underprivileged, and everybody was equal. That's an experience that I think that has formed my, inner being, in the sense to think of everyone as equal, and I've got school to thank for that. So, I think since we've gotten to know each other, Bandula has told me his childhood, and that's been an eye-opener. It's been a lot of insight. So it's brought into focus, how privileged a certain, segment of society is and how much more we can do if we only understand that at the beginning.
Interesting. So my next question, so based on your experience, what is the advice that you can give the children today?
It's not really only today children and the previous children. It's basically the determination that you have. Whatever you do your level best, and whatever the commitment that you have, do that commitment to the highest level, right? I mean, the titles and privileges are results of whatever the things that you do, but you cannot aim for the title first and do your job. It's basically a failure. So in my view, any youngster or whoever, if you can do your thing well, it will give you results, and based on your choice and based on your liking. Don't never ever think that to pursue your dreams or your aspiration where you don't like in that field, because it will never ever give better results. Like whatever you like and aim it and do your best. So I think that's the short advice that I can give to you. It's nothing to do with the new generation and the previous generation on that aspect. It is common thing.
And Mr. Hemachandra, Gamindu. So inspiration, when we're talking about inspirations, so what inspired you to enter the field of education?
Well, as you would expect, I think it was a teacher. I think many things would have influenced me being in the education field. But if I were to pick one experience, it was all my teachers actually, but one teacher in particular. He was the first teacher to take one of a course at university. In the sense, he was one of my first teachers at university. And university, we went into university where lecturers were, put on a pedestal, but this person was so down to earth and so friendly. He was a PhD in mathematics, and we couldn't even begin to kind of fathom his thinking. But he put things across so simply. He taught algebra in the first year. And university first year algebra is a course that maybe 50% of students fail. That's not a good thing. But it was a tough subject. We could see behind this teacher's, conversations, a very deep understanding, but that never prevented him from talking to us. He would talk to us one-to-one. He would be very concerned whether we understood. He was always there. On the corridor, he would kind of, say hi and ask us about, how we were doing. And it was, he's the first person that I went to ask advice on what I should do, how I should specialize in my studies. And so I asked him, sir, do I, choose this or that? So the answer he gave was, Gamindu, I know you and your studies. Why don't you flip a coin? He's never a person, that was not a simple answer. What he was saying is, decide for yourself. Don't make me decide for you. So I had to actually sit down and think about what he said, and I made my decision. So that's the kind of person he was. And teachers throughout, I was privileged to have a bunch of teachers who cared for me. But if it was one teacher who kind of, made a difference, it's this individual. And that would be the one thing that would have made me stick in education.
Okay, that's interesting. So I'm turning to Bandula again.
Yes,
So when we're talking about family, your family contribution, so what was the impact of your family contribution upbringing on you now?
Yeah, from the beginning, even at the little short time where I lived with my mother and the father, so basically they are given the right pathway. That inspiration is there. When I lost my father, that's the upbringing that you are talking about, that's why I'm saying. Even when I lost my father, mother was 26 years, right? She never given up anything. They gave all whatever the requirement that we need at the certain level, but she took that as a challenge. So she knew that it's a responsibility of a mother, right? And she gave that pathway for us to understand the right way of living. So that always, comes to my mind when I'm taking, if my mother could do that way, the hard way, why can't I? Why we are not following the same way, that thinking of the responsibilities. That is what I'm basically practicing as well. The family upbringing is that, and also family gave me huge independence, because there is no one to protect you, nurture you. Then you have a huge responsibility by yourself to behave yourself in a right manner, and nobody is coming behind saying that not to smoke, not to drink, not to this thing, nobody to guide in a different forces, but ourselves, we have the self-discipline to have that is given by the family discipline. So I think that is there all the time with me in my life.
So Gamindu, when we're talking about your family background, so how would your parents describe you?
How would my parents describe you? That's a tough one. So it'll be interesting to see what my mother says after she sees this.
So we should ask from your mother, no?
Yes. So I honestly don't know, but I would have been a child who was
A studious one?
I've been known as that, but I've also pretty much done my own thing, and maybe I'm grateful to my parents for allowing me to do that and for understanding me in my choices. So I think, as all parents do, they had a plan for me, right down to kind of planning out where they built their house for us. So it's in Katubelli. And the expectation was maybe for me to go to the University of Moratuwa. And I chose to go to Colombo instead of Moratuwa, so much so for that planning. But they didn't question that, in the sense they gave me the freedom to kind of explore what I wanted to do. And so I think they trusted not just me, but my siblings as well in what we'd end up in life. So they made their plans, I think, but they allowed us to grow into our own human beings, and I think they're happy for it. I think so. I hope so.
Yeah, obviously. All right, this is the wrapping up for first segment. So we'll moving on to the second segment for today's show. For second segment, it's all about present and future. So Bandula, when we're talking about education sector, so what motivated you to invest in the education sector?
Yeah, see, if you ask, investing in education, any child is for them in that aspect as well investment. Education and investment for any life, right? So there is no particular reason why we are interested in investing on education, because it has a certain cascading effect. It is the societal need, right? So it goes with our beliefs. It goes with our aspirations, because everybody has to have a certain education background. So therefore, we are running in line with that. Therefore, we are privileged to be in that section. So that's why we are there in particularly. And somebody can talk about commercial aspect. It is not the main objective of this investment. So it's basically to do something for the society. Every parent expects that your child to be educated. It is an investment, long-term investment, so that we are also having the same path, same direction.
That's the investment.
That's the investment.
Okay, so turning to Gamindu now. So when we're talking about the education again, so what changes do you see in the students who enroll today in comparison to those who are from those days?
Well, I think students nowadays, as you would expect, would come in with a lot more knowledge and skills. simply because they're exposed to more. I mean, if you take our generation, we would just have had libraries to go and gain new knowledge, and that itself is a huge privilege. There are few libraries around. If you are in university, you have access to that resource. If you are not, you don't. But and later on, when I was teaching, I used to tell students, I mean, look, the world is your oyster. I mean, you have the internet, you have e-libraries. There's very little difference in terms of access to information. I mean, there's very little difference between you and a student at Oxford. You would have the same resources, and today's universities will make those resources available no matter where you are. So I think today's youngsters are extremely talented and extremely knowledgeable, and they come better prepared for higher education, and they are, I think, better suited to or better prepared to solve the world's problems, and I don't think we tell them this, and I think we should tell them that. And things are continuously getting better. The students tomorrow will be far better than the students today. This is an upward spiral of improvement. That's a fact, I think. I think parents, educators should realize, acknowledge that. And we should allow the younger generation to explore more and truly see ourselves as individuals who can show the path, have discussions, but let them find their own way. And I see they're very opinionated, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm constantly amazed at, I mean, not a day goes by without me thinking, gosh, I wish I had thought of that. What is it that makes them think this? And I think we shouldn't be shy of those conversations. We should just have them. So I think it's a very positive thing. But I think that educators in particular need to appreciate this. And I think a mistake that we do is we try to kind of educate youngsters in the way that we were educated. There's a huge responsibility on the part of educators to acknowledge the current realities and to be guides and not, just transferers of knowledge.
I'm fully aligned with Gamindu on that factor, right? Actually, challenge is not for the kids, challenge is for the educators and the teachers to how to evolve with the new way of doing things. Like, you can't do the same thing and expect different results. So
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. Quite agree.
So, Bandula, when we're talking about corporate sector and education industry, so what differences in culture and environment do you encounter at APIIT and the corporate sector?
No, first I will talk about APIIT. I think Gamindu is expert on talking about the culture and having so much of years experience, and that experience also evolved. It is not the way that we started in 20 years back and now is totally different. But the solidarity or the point is basically APIIT has its own culture, and that culture is basically driven by the values, right? I mean, the respect and value are the value driven. Respect is there to run the APIIT. That's a culture that we are maintaining, right? And being educational institute, it is education. It has a purpose inbuilt. Corporate, there may be different reasons. I'm not saying that all the corporates, they don't have any values and respects and all this. I'm not saying. But the question is that APIIT being education institute, it has a value inbuilt. It has a respect inbuilt. Education itself is some guidance. So therefore, I have been exposed to many corporate sectors as well. But I must say that I'm enjoying my life here because I see something that we are contributing something to the society, not only the education. It's a well-rounded personalities coming up because of the inspiration that we are providing. So therefore, I have a little bit of sense of pride over being that institution. So that is the culture difference I see.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with due respect to the corporates also has.
Yes.
I'm not saying no.
No.
But when it comes to the education sector, especially for the APIIT, that is our DNA.
Right. That's interesting. So, you want to add more to that
Yes,
question?
I mean, I think that was a very good opening, Bandula. I mean, first of all, I think we are standing on the shoulders of giants. As Bandula said, APIIT has been around for 20 years. And something that APIIT's always been serious about is delivering an education that's of value, of real value to students. We were very concerned about the quality of higher education that we provide. And we've done a lot. We've worked very hard at that. So a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago, we asked ourselves the question, are we going to be happy with, giving a quality higher education, say, for the next 20 years? Or do we want to, stretch ourselves even further? So out of that conversation, we coined the purpose that we have. So our purpose goes something like this: we're there to revolutionize the higher education landscape by igniting a passion for the intrinsic worth of learning to nurture leaders who uplift lives. A mouthful, a mouthful.
Yeah.
The heart and soul of what we are trying to say is in that middle line, igniting a passion for the intrinsic worth of learning. In short, to inspire love for learning. So in that statement is this idea that why do we learn? Why does anybody learn? And we are trying to kind of tell our students this: here, you are learning simply because you will serve humanity better. You will give back to the world better. And you learn because you want to kind of be the best at that. You want to be the best version of yourself. You can only do that if you, study for the sake of learning, for the intrinsic value of learning. Only if you study something for the sake of learning that subject, only then will you become an expert, only then can you give back to the world. So we are trying to have this conversation with students here. You are learning not because you want to get that job that, pays you the best salary, or that will get you the best house and the best cars, make you travel the world. Those will come. Those are just consequences. I think parents and society talks about this. I'm not saying they're unimportant. But what we try to tell students is, please understand why you are learning. And this is to help your fellow human being. All those things will come. And this is the center around which we try to build what we are trying to do at APIIT. So learning for us, we believe, is a community synergistic activity. See, a classroom we'd like not to see as a teacher at the front of the classroom imparting knowledge to a group of students. It's an environment where learning happens. Not only do the students learn from the teachers should learn from the students, and we learn from each other. So that's how we like to be revolutionary. These are simple truths that everybody knows, I think. I'm not saying something that not a single teacher will deny. This is the way classroom should run. But we are scripted by a society that says, this is what a classroom is, there's a syllabus to cover, and all that gets in the way, and then you kind of fall back to a lesser form of education.
Adding something to that, Harley, that is very, the most important thing. And whoever who is there in the higher education sector, they are coming out as a graduate or diploma holder or whatever. But it is not the thing that we are talking about. We are talking about the leadership. We are talking about the right balanced personality to the society. Because current issue is that, basically the leadership, right? We need to build leaders within. So that part, APIIT believes.
Yeah, not
so
only
that,
the academic part.
Academic is basically has to happen. There is no two
Yes.
words. They have to complete their studies. They have to go, hardcore and do the hardships. But is that enough? We know that in the corporates, right? We don't need that. Just I'm having only this one, right? I need to understand the entire scenario as the very compact personality, well-surrounded personality. This is what we are focusing along with what Gamindu said. There.
So basically, the cream out of the cream.
Yeah, but not the best.
Yeah.
Not the best. What I'm trying to say, we don't need to be the the best guys out of all lot, but all have to be better. So I have to have that surround leadership skills and qualities.
Yeah, just to add a little bit more to that, I think as Bandula said, it's about learning together. And I mean, we'd like to define leadership as, anyone who can uplift the life of another person. Then you're providing leadership. You're uplifting at least one other person's life. We'd like our students to kind of see that, and please don't think that we've got this cut and dried. We don't. We're trying.
Yeah, we are trying.
We are trying. Yeah. But I think this conversation is important, and as Bandula said, nowhere are we saying that you must do well in your degree. You must pass well. Those things have to happen. But again, we must have the right focus.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a little empty if you are running after, say, a first class, for the sake of you having a first class.
Yeah, without having any leadership skills and all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is lacking is teachers and parents talking about this. We should talk about this. We should talk about why you're learning, and the focus has to be become a better version of yourself. It shouldn't be about beating somebody else. It's about beating yourself every day. And it's about working hard, as Bandula said. This is not a feel-good thing, and then you feel good about doing good to others. No, you have to put in the hard work. Only if you put in the hard work can you truly make a difference in another person's life. There's nothing. Only when you try to focus on making a difference in somebody's life do you realize how hard it is. So I think educators should kind of talk about this, and this is something that we've started at APIIT. I'm not saying that we are a long way off, and we are having these conversations with our teachers, our lecturers. We've begun to have this with our students, and this is a message that we'd like to take out to our country as well as the world. And by no means are we the only people saying this. I'm sure quality educators around the globe have this focus, so they're not special in that way. So yeah, it's exciting. I mean, we are excited about our next 20 years.
Next 20 years. All right. So when we're talking about the pandemic, so Bandula, pandemic, we all know that pandemic has exacerbated all over the regions, countries. So what in this pandemic era, so what new skills do students need to acquire? What do you think?
But actually, I have to answer in different way. Pandemic is another disaster or something, right? Every disaster has something we look at as a different way of the opportunity. Right? There is no, because it's a changing of economy, changing of external factors, then we call it pandemic, because many things can happen, like rupee devaluation, you name it, all these things are running, but it is a cycle. But unfortunately, this is something to do with the COVID pandemic. It basically restricted your movements. Right?
Yes.
Sometimes other things, they're not restricted movements, it come in a different way. Here, the challenges are different, but particularly pandemic, everybody had to learn, work or adjust yourself in a distant mode. That is why communication gave you a different platform, day-to-day work gave you a different platform, and daily wages had to find different way of working. But some of the areas, adaptability or flexibility took little time. So therefore they suffered. Every disaster or crisis has that leverage, that space. So the pandemic was totally new for entire world. So entire world was suffering, and there was nobody to support each other because entire world affected. So therefore their effect is much higher. So your question is what are the learnings?
Yeah, what new skills do students acquire?
The new skill is that one, it evolved from the communication channel, distance learning, and thinking of different way of handling the same job or same task. So that's the skill. I think that it is, human brain is a very versatile and very complex thing. It adjusted, so like if your right hand is not working, then they will automatically get used to work the job from the left hand. So similarly, skill evolved. They had the skill evolved in many ways, particularly on the communication skill. I mean, computer literacy and all these things, it evolved in a different stage.
Right. Okay. So Gamindu, what do you think? So do you think we can take the pandemic as a positive way?
I think that's the only way to look at it.
Yeah.
That's the only way to look at it.
Okay.
And,
So
sorry, Hiru.
yes. So what advice you can give for the future students? So like when we are taking the pandemic as a challenge, pandemic as a positive way, and what would you give a student who has completed A-levels and those who are considering to enter to the APIIT?
Okay. Actually, it's a general answer that I'll have. It may not be really connected with the pandemic. So A-levels or transitioning from the school system to a university system is a big decision. So I would say two things. I mean, firstly, you know quite a lot as it is. You know enough to know what you would like to do. So, explore your heart, feelings, and, take a look at what you're good at. And, be proud of, who you are, and be confident of the next step. And you should make that decision. Talk to your parents, yes, but have an honest conversation about what are your dreams. And this is a step in getting to your dream. So take it very seriously. Don't keep it to yourself. Talk to your parents, talk to your teachers, talk to the prospective universities. You have enough knowledge within yourself. Get all the input is the first message. The second is be prepared for hard work. Yeah. So I know that might be not something that students would wish to maybe hear when they're embarking on the next stage, but I think research has shown, and I think academics in general accept that it's hard work that gets you through. Everybody has talent, but your ability to achieve something is talent into effort squared. You can have a certain amount of talent. Everybody has that. But what matters in your ability to perform would be the effort that you put in. It's squared. That contribution is a square. So be prepared for that. It's the hard workers that go on to really make a difference in the world. So let's keep things simple. Follow your heart. You have enough knowledge and confidence to decide that for yourself. But please speak to everybody who matters and make that decision. And secondly, be prepared for a tough few years. That will set you up for life.
Definitely, you have to have right flexibility, adaptability, right? Ever-changing environment, consumer behavior is changing. Food usage is changing. The way of education methods are changing, right? If you can't say that I want to have a physical class, maybe I don't have to have a distance class, maybe you don't have the choices are very less. As Gamindu said, that get ready for the scenarios, the worst scenarios, and have the right flexibility and adaptability. Then you are okay, because you can't come out with the pre-planned way that I want to, because this it's not crisis, right? The crisis is ever changing the work environment, right? So that's
a very important message. I'm glad you said that. I mean, students shouldn't be scared. I know it's a post-pandemic world, but it's also probably the best time to study. Just a few kind of things that were possible. I mean, we have recorded lectures now. Earlier, you needed to sit in a classroom and somehow absorb everything in that 1 hour. Now, people could, yes, come for the class, but also at your own time, just, learn by yourself. And I think students and teachers both would have gotten used to different ways of teaching and learning. So these are positives that would not have been available in a pre-pandemic setting. So you have so much more ways of learning. I would think, I know it was a tough few years, I'm not saying that it wasn't, but I think it's a wonderful time to learn, and we have more tools, more methods, more possibilities.
All right, that's interesting. So now we are moving to the final question for the second segment. I think both of you can answer this question. So, what makes APIIT stand out from other private universities?
You want me to go first or what?
Sure.
Okay. No, number one, APIIT is a good university, the institution, education institute. At the same time, in Sri Lanka, we have a very good education institute, not only APIIT, right? What we are trying to do is there is no competition between other universities and this one. And Gamindu very clearly said that competition is with us. So day by day, we are trying to be better, right? And we are on that journey very clearly. So therefore, we can talk about ourselves, and we are reasonably doing a good job, making justice for our students. And we want to be not only the academic excellence, we want to be, when they are passing out, with the leaders that required for the society. So you ask me the difference. There are many differences, maybe, but it is not the way that we handle it as a competition. Because there are many places doing better jobs, better things there outside. But we want to be day by day, improve ourselves. Then somebody will decide what is best. We are not the right people to judge. We are the best or somebody is the best. So let them realize. But this is the starting point. I think Gamindu can add many things. The way that he wants to express that, what is the difference between other institutions and the
So I think Chairman put it very diplomatically, but in the sense, our focus is on ourselves in the sense, and what we'd ask students to also do is to focus on yourself. So, take a class. We are used in the school system to kind of be the best. So there is a ranking. We are used to the first, second, third, A's and B's, first classes, and so there is a certain standard that, not standard, there's a certain societal kind of norm that has been established. We would try to kind of picture a better setting. Wouldn't it be great if an entire class, thought, here, let us get through this subject together. It's not about being first. What if the prize was the entire class passing? And by passing, I don't mean like getting easy questions and sitting an exam and then everybody passes. No, you must have the skills. Passing an exam means you have the skills that subject, needs to kind of impart on you. But wouldn't it be great if we have a system where an entire class thinks it's not me, I don't want to be first. My first objective is, how do I get the entire class to do well? Yeah. So this is something that other education institutions may also be doing that. We can only speak about ourselves. We'd like for us, our classes to be that. I'm not saying we are that. Our graduation will be in December, where we will award first classes, second uppers, and that will happen. But wouldn't it be great, where we all get together and uplift ourselves? The original meaning of compete is to come together with the common goal of improving ourselves. And then in that process, there will emerge, a winner in a competition. There are winners. But the whole idea is to come together, to support each other, and to improve ourselves. And that's a goal that we try to kind of aspire to. Again, I'm not saying that we are all there, but we've started the conversations with our teachers, with our students. Let's try and do this. Let's help each other. Everybody has their strong points and weak points. And it shouldn't matter. As a class, you can compensate for somebody's, weaknesses and draw on their strengths. That is not to say that you will get support in an exam, but there will be sections in a subject where you're good at, where you can teach others, and sections in a subject where you shouldn't feel shy to ask for help. So we'd want a culture that does that. So these are easy things to kind of speak about, very difficult things to do. And at APIIT, I think these are the conversations that we have. I would like us not to stand apart. I would like everybody to be having these conversations. And I think we have a wonderful higher education sector. There are conversations happening between institutions, and we'll share best practices. I think that should be the spirit. We have the start of that kind of ecosystem, and that's the way we should go, I think.
I think very simple example. If one student didn't participate one class, I think in my view, teacher should not ask that. The colleague of him or her should ask, why didn't you come to class? And that support has to have, because there is no competition within. It's like 100 marks guy equivalent to 100 other guy is 60. So there is no satisfaction of anything. If you can have all the guys closer to 80, not in I'm not saying not to have 100 marks, but it's a team thing. Everybody has to be the winner. I mean, there is no nothing called free lunch, but you have to earn your lunch, right? And put your heart and soul and get your right education. But it's a synergetic approach that we are talking about, not individualism.
Okay, that's very interesting. So this is the wrapping up of the second segment for today's show. So we'll move on to the third segment. Okay, now we came to the final segment of today's show. So segment 3. So basically this is my favorite segment. We have some sort of interesting questions in this ball. So both of you can pick one card, but you all can't see the questions. So I will asking you some series of rapid interesting questions. You have to answer with the first thought that comes to your mind.
Okay, so I have to take one.
Yes.
Okay. So, Gamindu?
Oh, goodness. All right.
So, Bandula, for your question, what would you like to do during your leisure time?
Oh my God, yeah. We being in a corporate, we need to define our leisure time, right? I mean, if someone says that you are busy with something, I don't accept. You find your own leisure time in a different way. But what I do basically, the must do things like you do your exercises and you do your whatever the things that you are happily doing. I mean, I incorporate into my leisure time. So example, when I go the late night, I consider next moment is my leisure time. I go to my private room and I make my karaoke or some singing there. That's my leisure time. I'm utilizing in a different way. But things when you are working in many organizations, many commitments. So I'm finding my leisure time and depending on the suitability, right? So do my exercise also I consider is my leisure time. So that is how I manage my leisure time.
Leisure time. Okay, interesting. So Gamindu, your question is, name a person whom you love the most in your life.
So this will get me in trouble. I think so. I think the person who I'm closest to is my wife. But love, I think, is we should love the world. So yes, there is a relationship, special relationships, but we are used to thinking of love as an emotion, and this is another conversation that we have at APIIT because our first value is loving and caring. What is it to be loving and caring? Love is an act. Love is about going that extra mile, going through pain yourself to help someone, to make another person's life better. So, and I think we should, love the world. I mean, it shouldn't be my wife versus my, what has more priority. Do I go to a concert with my wife or do I do a lecture, an extra lecture? It should never be that. You should love the world. But yes, there are people you're close to. So for me, who I'm close to is my wife.
So, the next question, what 3 movies should all people watch?
All people watch.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of a tough question for me to answer because it all depends on their interest and their desires. During my school time, I'm writing about the films, but mainly in singular, right? Even if you really look at the journey of singular cinema in Sri Lanka, I used to do all post-report writing for many things. If you go back 30-40 years, how we came out in, Viragaya, Hansa Vilak, Mahagedara, Tunginiyamaya, Soldadun Nahe, great directors in the film industry done by those guys. They came into, point where from Indian cinema into fruitful cinema into Sri Lanka. So all what I'm asking right now, if you ask me which film is the best to see in Sinhala, it is not they are evolved, and particularly the film we can recommend like Freedom Writers, so all these things we can say, but I'm not saying which this film should see. There is, but when you are in a disturbed moment, I see the comedy films also. That I can't recommend that we see that comedy film that it's a desire it gives you. So it all depends, right? It all depends, but I love those still the singular films that then they give a lot of the messages and how they should, and also the expressions of the people and the society by the film industry at that time.
Gamindu, your turn now.
I did not see it.
Okay, no worries.
I didn't read it.
So, your question is, what motivates you to work hard?
Oh, so I joined APIIT right after university, and the plan was it was a stopgap for me to go on and do my own thing, just a little bit. But then I kind of fell in love with what I was doing, the teaching. It meant something. It means that you are making a difference in somebody's life. You see people learning, and that was inspiring. And I got to learn quite a bit myself. And so initially, when I was a teacher, it's so you can make even one small difference to maybe about 30 students was something that I, looked forward to. Today, it's about, 2,000 students, and the thing that gets me to work every day is here I can make a difference, a small, tiny difference in 2,000 people's lives. So that keeps me going. That thought that I could make a small contribution is what makes me, get to work and work hard. It's a wonderful feeling.
Gamindu, there are about so many cards. We're ready for the worst scenarios. It's coming up.
So your question is, how do you balance your work and your personal life?
I think again, I believe that I'm balancing. I don't know the impact for the others, including my family, because there are so many sacrifices and right understanding of my family. Because when you are engaged in the long hours, we have to. There are many things that we have to. Sometimes I had to admit that some point of time that I have neglected maybe my family, like the morning when I come in, but it's early morning, when I go back in the late evening. So my daughter is there. Sometimes I miss that childhood sometimes, but not deliberately. I didn't have many choices also, because I said at the beginning I had a very hardcore life during my childhood, but I didn't stop whatever the ambitions that I have, not the ambitions, that the way that we handle. And I don't think that I have neglected any of the corporate responsibilities which I had. Sometimes as a consequence, probably I may have missed my the personal commitment, which I not regretting, but I'm trying to correct it. Nowadays I'm basically having that, but still when it comes to your task, because of your responsibility, your mind works on responsibility, then you are losing your game. Sometimes, a simple example, you might miss your lunch because you think that, you might miss your dinner. That is also not treating you in the right balancing, right? I mean, it has a cascading effect, right, later on. But still we do, not because we are duty bound, we have some other reason, but it is the right way to do. That means it shows that you are incapable of managing your time, incapable of managing overall thing. But I admit that. I'm not saying that because I achieved that one. It's achievement or it's basically you're not an efficient man, right? I mean, I look at that. But since you are asking my life, how do I balance this thing? I made some mistakes also, but I'm trying to correct it. But there's a very valid reason for me to have that position as well. But I'm not taking that as excuse.
Could I, Hiruni, I know it's not my question, but contribute to that. So Bandula is brutally honest here in the sense, and like I've known Bandula for about 2 years now, but despite this, the few observations I've made about him, his interactions with his family, I think he does justice. But this is his evaluation of himself, and this is something we talk about work-life balance. He just said, like, I'm very guilty of all those things that he said. Very guilty. But maybe, we think of work and life and the balance, but isn't work a part of life? And if you think of it as an integral part, maybe we can all find a better way of, treating ourselves, our families, and, our work. So I think there's quite a lot in, changing our thinking. But I am very sure that the way to kind of set about the answer to that is not talk about work-life balance. Work is a part of life. Now let's figure out how to, make this work. It's not a competition.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, can't I take a pass? I didn't.
Sorry.
So, Gamindu, your question is, what's the one thing on your bucket list you would like to finish next?
Oh, good. It's interesting that you asked that because my partner and I have been discussing, we've been married for more than 2 decades. We've never been out of the country together.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, I mean, we've always known this. So, we've traveled Sri Lanka extensively together, just the both of us. She's a photographer. So, she photographs and I have an interest in archaeology. And so, I mean, that's a good combination. And we've literally been all over the island and we've traveled together, but never overseas together. We've separately gone on our own, business trips, but we've never traveled out together. So this is the next one on the bucket list. Very immediately, we need to do a trip to India, which my partner likes very much, and she wants me to experience all of that, and that's the one on my bucket list.
Okay, interesting. Ms. Bandula? Yes. Yeah, your turn. So, your question is, name one thing you would like to change about Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka?
Yes.
Very simple. It's a leadership. Not particularly presidential thing I'm talking about, not political. Everybody in the Sri Lanka have to have a certain kind of leadership. We don't take, I'm not talking about the parties, I'm talking about the individual per se. 22 million has to take individual leadership, including myself. I don't think that me contributed to the economy or society as our expected level, right? So please, jack up, this is the right time. We have gone down to the bottom. Now give that leadership to the society, everybody. This is one thing that everybody has to come together and practice your leadership. It may be contribution, it may be education, it may be anything. Do that, share that leadership among everything. I think things will move like this.
Yes, that can be that change. So, Gamindu, it's your turn again now.
Sorry, you may.
I'm going to shuffle this around.
Yeah.
I get tough questions.
So, interesting. What is your dream car, or is your current car your dream car?
Very nice question you asked.
It's who put that question in there? So, cars are a way of getting from point A to point B.
Now we can reveal your car.
I'm okay. It's a Starlet EP82.
Okay.
So it's again ancient. But a car to me is something to get from point A to point B. But you should take care of it, and I do not take care of mine. And that's something that I want to improve on. So everything that you use, you must kind of take care of, I think. I'm quite happy with the car. It gets me from point A to point B, and it suits us just fine.
Like a dream car.
It is, but there's more. I mean, you have to work on your dreams. So my particular work is to treat my car better.
All right.
I mean, I to add Gamindu's point. I'm not say talking about the luxuries and all these things.
Yeah.
But in my personality tells me to express that I love driving. I'm enjoying driving passion. So any car, anything I want to drive.
Right.
So not only A to B, I mean, I expect that also within me. So I just want to add.
So is the car the dream car?
Yeah. I don't have a particular dream car, but I say my intention, my desires are a little different to Gamindu's, but I really enjoy driving. Yeah. Not like Michael Schumacher's level, the fast driving and all, I like driving. Sometimes I want to drive just without any idea. I just want to drive in this thing, and I enjoy that.
All right, interesting. So thank you very much. So this is the wrapping up for the today's talk show. Thank you very much, Mr. Bandula Egodage and Mr. Gamindu Hemachandra. I'm really pleased and really grateful to talk with you, both of you. So this is an Educator talk show. If you can dream it, you can do it. Thank you very much.